boys and girls. Well, today we start our polar unit. And our unit means that we're going to learn some information, get some more wrinkles about the North Pole and the South Pole. One of the things that you need to know is there is a big difference between the North Pole and the South Pole. The North Pole is water surrounded by land. The South Pole is land surrounded by water. So the South Pole, land surrounded by water, and that's Antarctica. And the North Pole is water surrounded by land, and that's the Arctic. So you have the Arctic North Pole, and you have the Antarctic South Pole. Today, we're going to start off in the Arctic, the North Pole, the one where it is water surrounded by land. And in the wintertime, the water is supposed to freeze, and it's supposed to provide a hunting ground for our friend polar bears. So let's find out about some information with the Arctic with our friend the polar bears. And I have a polar bear right here with me who's going to help us out with our story. So, should we read the story? Okay, it looks like we'll go ahead and get started with our story. Oh, yes, I know. I will share the story with them and then share some ways to take care of our planet. All right, you need to sit to the side while I get the story. Okay, good. This story is called The Polar Bear's Home, and it is a story about global warming, and it's by Little Green Books. So let's find out about the polar bear's home. And it's written by Laura Bergman, and it's illustrated by Vincent Nguyen. Hello, welcome to the Arctic, where I live. Some things never change. In the summer, the sun never sets. It is always light outside. And in the winter, the sun never rises. It is dark all day. So can you imagine in the summertime, it is daytime for the whole day. And then in the winter, it's nighttime for the whole day. But some things do change in the Arctic. When I was little, my dad would take me out on a long dog sled ride in the springtime. We would ride over the snowy land and frozen rivers and see white Arctic hares and foxes and busy little lemmings. So here's our Arctic hare and here's our Arctic fox. But I don't see a lemming on this page. We'll learn about them later. So she's going for a dog sled ride. But this spring, since so much snow and ice had melted, my dad said, let's go for a boat ride instead. And that's when I saw something I'd never seen before. 2 furry white balls on an ice sheet all by themselves. Look, I called to my dad. Look at those 2 dogs. Do you think they're dogs? I agree with you. Those aren't dogs, my dad told me. Those are polar bear cubs. They look like they were born just this winter. And polar bear cubs like to stay close to their mother until they're almost 3 years old. Where's their mom? I asked him. I don't know, said my dad. He was a little surprised too. In the fall, my dad explained, when a mother polar bear's expecting a baby, she digs a cozy den in the snow, and there she stays until a little cub or twins are born a few months later. Is that when they come out? I asked. Oh no, said my dad. New polar bear cubs are much too tiny. Most weigh just a pound. They stay with their mother in their den until the springtime when they're big enough, like these cubs, to go outside and explore. Well, what about the dad? I asked. The polar bear's father does not sleep in the den with the mother and their cubs, said my dad. Father keeps hunting all winter long. Of course, by then, my dad explained, the polar bear mother hasn't eaten for months and months. And so it's just about this time of year that she heads out onto the pack ice. Why do they head out onto the pack ice? I asked him. Because, he told me, that's where the seals are, and that's what the polar bears eat. I'm sure the mother of these cubs was thin and hungry after so many months in the den on shore, my dad said. She was eager to take her cubs out where she could hunt seals and start teaching them how to hunt too. Then my dad looked around at the icy sea and shook his head. I think the ice melted too fast this spring for this family. The mother probably left her cubs to watch her while she hunted, and then the ice under the cubs broke off and carried them away. I thought polar bears could swim, I said. Why didn't they swim back to her? Polar bears are very good swimmers, my dad had replied, even in this freezing water. But these cubs are too young to swim. Their mother hasn't taught them yet. Maybe we should take the cubs home with us and take care of them, I said. I don't think so, my dad told me. When these bears grow up, they will be enormous. Bigger than you? I asked him. Oh, much bigger, he said. And they will need a lot of food, more food that we just can't give them. Besides, polar bears are happiest living on the ice. Unlike other bears, they hibernate in the winter. They stay busy when it's cold and slow down when it's warm. Well, how do they keep warm in the winter? I asked. Polar bears have a 4-inch blanket of fat to keep them warm, my dad told me. In fact, they have to be careful not to get overheated when they run, even in the winter. And here they've used some measuring tools to help show us the difference between when their polar bear is a cub and the child at 4 feet, and when the person grows up at 6 feet and the polar bear is 8 feet. So there's quite a bit of difference. 1 foot, 4 feet, so smaller, taller. 6 feet, 8 feet, smaller, taller. So a bit of a difference there. Good measuring there. Unfortunately for polar bears, my dad said, and many other animals too, the Arctic is warming up more and more every year. Why's that? I asked. The world and its climate are changing, he told me, and we humans are making it change faster. We use a lot of energy to heat our houses, run our factories, and even to power this boat. And most of it comes from burning coal and oil. That makes a gas which forms a tent around the earth and traps in extra heat. So they're looking at the factory there, creating the gas that's going to heat up the planet. Polar bears aren't made for extra heat, he said. A shorter winter means a shorter hunting season. It means less ice to hunt on and much more water to swim through to get to the ice. Will they be able to catch enough seals? I asked. Probably not, my dad said. In fact, the polar bears are already suffering. Many grown-up polar bears are not as healthy as they used to be, and fewer cubs are being born or survive every year. My dad looked sad. Heard people say that if we don't try to help our planet now, there might be no more ice here at all in the Arctic when you grow up. And that means no more polar bears here either. Wow. So hopefully we can start making a difference and make that prophecy not come true. Then we have to save these cubs, I said. I'm not sure we can, said my dad. But then he brightened. And you know what? Maybe we don't have to. Look who's coming. He pointed to something white floating towards them in the water. Was it a small block of ice? No, it was the polar bear cub's mother. Look, I said, as she climbed up onto the ice floe and helped her cubs onto her back. She's saving those cubs all herself. What a good mom. The next thing we knew, the mother was diving back into the water with her cubs riding piggyback and swimming smoothly towards the pack ice in the distance. Let's follow them, I said. I'm sure I'm glad Mom came back. She figured it out. Thanks, Mom. When they reached the ice, the mother bear climbed up and sat down in the snow. And right away, her cubs started nursing. We know that mammals nurse milk from their mothers and are covered with fur and have warm blood, so polar bears must be mammals. I was happy for them. But I was still a little bit worried. Will they be okay? I asked my dad. I think so, he said. But summer is coming and the ice is melting more each day. This mother bear has to get enough to eat while the ice is still here to be able to make milk for her cubs all through the summer. He grinned. I think she looks like she can do it. But, he went on, there are a lot more polar bears that are going to need for our help from now on. We can do it. We know how, right, guys? We can all help those polar bears. Here are some things you can do to help slow down global warming. Recycle aluminum cans, glass bottles, plastic, and cardboard. Plant a tree. It will help clean the air and shade the earth. Turn off things like the TV, the computer, and the lights when you're not using them, and even unplug them if you can. Yay! So she shared some ideas of ways that we can help an animal keep its habitat and be able to survive in the Arctic. So, my friends, think of some ways that you help the planet. What do you do in your home or in your community to help the planet and the local area where you are, which eventually helps all of us? Oh, and my friend, they would like you to help too. Oh, definitely nodding to say yes. So scroll on down and think of a way, an idea that you can share of how you help the planet and keep our polar bears friendly. All right, my friends, scroll on down and see what you can do.